want to do one more small teaching on the first chapter of the book of Colossians. We see in the book of Colossians, we talked last week, how the gospel's bearing fruit, and Paul's writing to the Colossians about, since the day you heard the gospel, understood it, and you understood God's grace. And then he says in chapter 1, verse 7, referring to the gospel, you learned it from Epaphras, our dear fellow servant, who is a faithful minister of Christ on our behalf, and who also told us of your love in the Spirit. So I want us to just see this small thing here. Paul is reminding the Colossians that they heard the gospel from Epaphras, who in turn told Paul and others. So we think of a lot of times that Paul started every church we ever hear of. It's not true. There were many people who shared the gospel. And in the case with the church of the Colossians, it was a guy named Epaphras. So here's what we know of Epaphras. Absolutely nothing. We don't know anything. That's all we know right there. That these people heard the gospel from Epaphras, and he taught them the gospel, and he in turn reported to Paul that there's good things happening among these people. That's all we know about this guy. Nothing. It's just, just a guy. It's Bob. It's Joe. It's Sam. Just a guy who shared the gospel, and a church grew. So this ordinary guy, Epaphras, went someplace, told somebody about Jesus, and the gospel spread. It changed a city. It prompted a letter from Paul. And today, 2,000 years later, I'm reading it, and it's speaking to us today. That's pretty powerful. What started from a guy we don't know anything about. No books are written, nothing. This is one of the heroes of the faith that we don't know anything about. And so what I want us to do today is think about this guy Epaphras, and two things that should come to our mind from it. One is most of the great people in this world and in history, we don't know who they are. They're just people. Just out there. And then the other thing I want us to get is there are a long string of Epaphrases that have come into our life. So at the ISA, we work with a lot of people all over the world, and our model is we find leaders, we train leaders, and they in turn run the program where they are. So we're not actually doing a lot of hands-on of the ministry. These are our people out there. These are our Epaphrases. They're everywhere. I don't know what the plural of Epaphra is. Epaphrodites, I don't know. Our Epaphrodites are out there, and they're doing the work, and they're awesome. They're amazing. They're reaching young people. They're starting programs. They're starting discipleship groups. They're changing slums. They're feeding kids. They're clothing people. They're doing awesome, amazing things for the gospel, and yet we don't even know them. They're everywhere. But let me tell you who does know them. God knows what's going on. And he knows their heart. He knows these people. There's rewards for them, yes, on earth, but especially eternally. They are out there. So as you think of even the ISA, be praying for these unnamed, unknown people. Actually, if you would like to know some specific people by name to pray for, let us know. Contact us, and we'll give you maybe 1 or 2 or 5 or however many of our key people that you can take and have a picture of, and you can pray for them by name. But I just want you to know they're out there. They're doing the work. The gospel workers are everywhere. The Epaphras in Colossians here, people like him are everywhere sharing the good news. It's not all about the famous people like Paul. It's all these people out there doing the work. Then the other thing I want us to think about is who has impacted you? Who's impacted you in your life? Who was the one who brought the gospel to you? Who is the one who influenced you along the way or trained you in thing, or maybe this is the person who taught you the biblical principles of finances, or this one taught you the biblical principles of relationship, or this one taught you how to study the Bible here, or this one taught you about this part of life. Think of those people, because there's a whole path of people that changed your life that God used. And I was thinking, as I was considering this verse, I thought, oh my gosh, there have been, no kidding, hundreds of people. But I thought, my gosh, I was going back through my life and thinking about all these people who influenced me. And there was Brad and Gary and Bill and Jim and Mike and Eric and Glenn, Ron, David, Bruce, Mark, Ben, Fount, Stacy, Reed, Frank, Dale. I could go on and on about people, key people who impacted my life just by their faithfulness and being in proximity. And so just as Paul was reminding the Colossians, hey, Epaphras brought you that gospel. And I believe one of the reasons Paul said that is because he wanted to honor Epaphras and let them know there was a godly man who brought the gospel to you. And so it is in my life. I think it's important that God regularly reminds me of the godly men and women who have impacted my life and who have changed me. Maybe going back to a little kid or going back to just last week. All these people have shaped us, and we need to give thanks to God. And we need to honor those people as we can. Even to tell them something good is always a good thing. And also to carry on the work and the legacy that has been handed to us so that we can continue. So when I'm in, let's say I'm among the Maasai, and I'm working with these amazing people who are ministering to these young people, I want you to know that I sometimes stand in awe of how God has had this gospel spread everywhere and how we see these people ministering to all these young people, knowing that they're impacting an entire generation and that generation in turn is going to impact another one. So have it be that way in your life. Take some time and to consider who has influenced your life. Reach out to them and thank them and pray for them and thank God for the path he's taken you on. So God bless. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. At the International Sports Academy, we have been very blessed and fortunate. We are a discipleship ministry, and we, of course, use sports, but the heart of it is to help people grow in their life and in their walk with Jesus. And so teachings like this, we have all over the world. In fact, many people watch teachings online just as you are. And so if you're encouraged by these and would like to share these with literally thousands of others, maybe they're from the slums, or they're from the bush, or they're from places where they don't have access to teachings, we're able to get in there and to encourage them in the Word of God. So if you are blessed by that and you have a heart for making disciples all over the world and getting good, solid Bible teachings, feel free to join in financially. You can go to isasports.org/give, and all of that would just really go to really blessing thousands and thousands of people. So thank you so much for your partnership, and look forward to seeing you next time we teach.